to kill it. I was meant to win. I am down and willing, so I will find a way. It took a minute, now it didn't happen right away. When it get hot in the kitchen, you decide to stay. That's how it winners made. Stick a fork in the hater on my dinner plate. I walk into the fire like it's just a bit of flame. I switch my style up, watch the money pile up. I'ma get rich with life.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Podcast, where we are featuring the athletes of the 2024 CrossFit Games Semifinals. And with me today is Tristan Harrison. What's going on, man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So before we get into the CrossFit stuff, you're sitting out on your back porch, and do I see a green egg?
Yeah, you do. There's a black stone next to it on the other side.
Oh. So I love smoking meat.
Yeah, it's the best way to make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have like a knockoff Traeger. I used to go the charcoal route with a Weber tall boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I switched to the pellet just because I was doing it so much. I needed something that didn't need as much babysitting.
Yeah, and it's so much more consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, forget it.
Yeah, haven't done a lot with the green egg. We've messed with it a bit here in the last couple months as it's been a little bit nicer. We had a weird 70-degree February, which was lovely. But then it got winter hit for real. But the Blackstone we use constantly, like smash burgers once a week probably at least, and it's lovely.
Yeah, my one of my best friends has a Blackstone and a grill and a smoker and like the whole outfit.
Yeah.
Right? And he does Philly cheesesteaks, he does smash burgers, he does breakfast on the Blackstone,
pancakes.
Yeah,
Scrambled eggs, bacon. Yeah, you put everything on there. So much, so great.
So I've always wanted to know. I've never used a green egg. I've never even been to a place where someone used it. But I hear it is the best way to smoke meat.
I've used it, I think 3 times now is all. I haven't done a lot with it. The other way that I smoke, so out at my dad's house, he has just a stand Weber one like you were talking about, with the chunks that you put in it of the wood and everything. And that's what we did growing up for smoking meat, stuff like that. This I've done brisket, ribs, and pork shoulder on now.
Okay.
And
isn't that the holy trinity of smoked meat?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, just try it. If you're gonna try them, do those 3. Figure it out. The brisket and the shoulder went great, but they're hard to mess up. Especially with pork shoulder. Just put it on there and come back in 12 hours and see what happened. It's probably gonna taste pretty good.
Yeah.
The ribs we'll call them a learning experience. I'll do them again, but I've definitely took some notes down of all right, do this instead, do this after this much time. And yeah.
So why I think the green egg is probably so good is, of course, you probably know who Bill Henniger is.
Yeah. Right? Familiar.
So he lives here in Columbus, and on his property, he has 5 green eggs.
Jeez.
And he uses them when people come over, when athletes come to town, he makes dinner, uses all of them at one time to make the meal. And he was going to open a restaurant at the Rogue facility featuring his barbecue, but then COVID hit.
Oh, yeah, terrible timing.
Yeah, terrible timing.
I think that happened for a lot of people. No, the one thing about the green egg is a space thing. That's probably why he has 5.
Yeah.
Is if you get one good sized pork shoulder, that's all you're putting on it.
Yeah.
You can't, it's not I'll get a brisket and 2 racks of ribs and this and put it all in one smoker like a Traeger or a stand-up would do with the different levels. The green egg is you got this circle. Once it's full, that's all you're getting there.
Yeah. Well, now that we have everybody's mouth watering, we'll get into a little bit of your story. So this is your second trip to semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
You went to Atlas Games in 2021. You've been doing the Open since 2015.
Yeah, I've been doing CrossFit since 13, summer of 2013, I believe. So right around there. I was going into ninth grade is when. Yeah, yeah. I have three brothers. My oldest brother was doing it, and I was a track athlete, and that's what I did in high school. And so I started doing that kind of in the summer and fall and all that, and I really enjoyed it. And he and I kind of
Who got you
connected on
into it?
My
Did
oldest brother.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. He coached it over in Rochester, which is an hour from me, where I am now. And just kind of introduced it to me and would send me workouts and kind of started me doing it. I started lifting some more going into high school and have just kind of been consistent with it since then. Wanted to compete, did compete as a teenager at Granite Games and Wadapalooza. Those were a blast. Then aged out as that happened. And then did Granite Games on a pro team when they did sanctionals.
Yeah.
I think was that the sanctional year? I can't keep those straight. Good Lord. Did that, and then 2021 made it to. I think I was the very last one in to the North America semifinals that year.
Wow.
Because that 2021 North America had 4 sanctionals or semifinals, regionals, who knows what they were. And they just said, hey, this many athletes qualify, and then we'll just spread you out to those 4, right? And so I didn't think I made it because I was like 128th or 30th or something like that, and it was top 120. And then 2 weeks later, I get an email, oh, you made it. I'm like, okay, great. And I asked if I could actually go to Granite Games because it's 2.5 hours from me. And I've competed there almost every year except like 2 since I started competing in 2015. But they couldn't, they were just full. So ended up at Atlas Games and did that one online in the gym because again, COVID.
So I was going to ask you, I thought that was the year that Atlas was online and the other 3 were in person.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was with Morning Chalk Up that season, and I went to the 3 that were in person.
Okay.
And we were watching. I was at West Coast Classic watching the Atlas Games results as they popped up to kind of see who was where.
Yeah, what people were getting and when the leaderboard went live and all that stuff.
What a chaotic year that was.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think every year since 2019 has felt like a chaotic year for the CrossFit season.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair.
Touche.
Yeah.
So your one semifinal experience was really online and no different than the open or quarters.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, exactly. It was, oh, hey, you did the open, you did quarters, kind of just do quarters again. Like that's kind of what you're doing. And there weren't, I think the only difference is we had a password we had to say for the semifinals. I think that was the only difference between semifinals and quarters, was like that way they knew you were doing them in order.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So this is your first time in person going to a semifinal, and it's in Carson, California, home of the CrossFit Games. You've been doing this since 2013. I'm sure you've watched stuff in Carson.
Oh, I mean, I've watched the games every year. I went to Carson in 2016. So I graduated high school in 2016. And me and my dad took a motorhome and drove out to Carson, watched the games in 2016 that summer, all week. And yeah, it is really, it's definitely like a nostalgic special thing of like, oh, I get to go compete in the tennis stadium.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, it is, you know, like doing this for 11 years almost now, I think. Like that I think is the biggest thing. Like it's cool I made it to semis. I've been competing for a long time. I've done Granite Games on a pro team. Like I've done Wadapaloozans as a teenager and all that stuff. It's like I'm used to competing and doing those bigger competitions. Like I've experienced that. But it is the idea of like the tennis stadium definitely gets you a little giddy.
Yeah, like I like the setup in Knoxville. It is not iconic, right? Like
No.
you North America West athletes are going to get an experience that very few people have gotten. And it's been almost 10 years since we've been there. So like a lot of the athletes today didn't even compete back then.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'd love to go down the list and be like, all right, who's going there next weekend that has been there? Because I mean 5 to 10
Maybe.
you know, like it is definitely going to be one of those of like, wow, this is walk out on that tennis stadium and look up and see like you are just in like a viewing tunnel. Like everyone's above you and everyone's just looking down and you're just there. And it's like, okay.
So they've released the workouts. The first workout is not on an air runner. You're going to run on the ground.
Yeah. Thank
Boz
God.
teased that at some locations it would be iconic where you run.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So.
Oh, are we berm running it? Is that where you're going?
That's my question. If as an athlete, if you have to run those stairs in addition to run the berm, is that fair in a semifinal?
Oh, I mean, fair to who? Like compared to the other semifinals, no, but they don't affect who goes from ours. You know, like that's kind of always been, everyone's always said, well, week 3 of regionals always has the best scores. Well, yeah, they had 3 more weeks to practice, you know,
right.
And it's fine because week 3 doesn't affect week 1.
Right.
You know, in terms
to
of
get to run the berm and say you ran the berm.
Yeah. Like I hope we get to do that. I'd rather do that than run like laps in a tennis stadium. Like I'm going to get dizzy.
You know? Yeah. I mean, at the very least, I understand like the soccer stadium is only a tunnel away from the tennis stadium. I've never been. Mm-hmm. And so they could take you, like funnel you out and have you run around the soccer stadium.
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine because I know they did a version of Nancy when they did the berm run, and that was 600 meters. And they started at the far end of the soccer field. So, I mean, if we ran out of the tennis stadium through that tunnel, across the floor, I mean, that would be half a mile. Like, you'd add probably about another 200 meters going through that tunnel and back. So, on to the 600 they did, it'd be pretty close to a half a mile to have to go all the way up the berm and
back. Yeah. And they've said these are not going to be exactly 800 meters, you know, and it's going to vary from location to location based on what they can do.
Yeah. And exactly, again, why, like, that's totally fine. Like, everyone in that place is running the same thing. We're good. You know, like, everyone tries to cross compare scores and everything. And you can't even do it. It's the different weeks. It's different athletes. If someone was somewhere else and they were next to them, would they have gone faster? You know.
A Wad Zombie pipes in. Cool. Another West Coast semifinalist. Excited to see him.
Thanks, Wad Zombie.
Wad Zombie's like our West Coast correspondent. He lives there in LA, so he and his wife are heading there for sure.
Yeah, meeting everybody.
Yeah. So What kind of athlete are you?
A CrossFit one. it's I like I said, I started doing this when I did my first competition when I was 15, right? And so I've been doing this for over 11 years. And I did track in high school and I didn't do it my senior year. So CrossFit is what I've done basically my whole formative life.
Would you say your strengths are like engine and endurance or power output? Or are you just
definitely not power output? That is definitely I kind of noticed that doing like quarters, like that event 4 with all the clean and jerks, is that repeated power output of like do this percentage over and over and over again, and I just kind of fall off. That battery test, people have been calling it, which is the first time I've heard that term. Nice to learn something new, I guess, in 11 years. But that's, I would say, more just like knowing myself, like my pacing. Like I kind of know where I need to be, what I need to do for how fast I'm going to go, and strategizing workouts. I tend to do pretty well of round 1 is this pace and round 2 is this and round 3 is a little faster and round 4 is finish. Just having done it long enough, that's definitely become my main strength, is being able to stay focused on myself and not like, oh, I got to go faster because they're going faster.
Okay. So I hear you. You're going to be on the floor possibly with some of the biggest names in the sport, like a Pat Vellner, a Brent Fikowski, a Justin Medeiros. Will any of that? Will you have like fanboy tendencies, or because you've been to Wadapalooza and Granite Games, you can kind of put the blinders on?
I mean, I'm definitely going to blow up too fast in the first run of the 800. I think everybody's going to do that. I think everyone has a strategy of, oh, I'm going to go run this first 800 at like a 7-minute mile pace or whatever, 7:30, 6:45, somewhere in there. And the clock's going to go off and everyone's going to run like a 5:30 mile. And just then it's going to turn into hang on. And that's about par for what everyone does. Like, it's the first event, it's the jitters, it's 3, 2, 1, go.
Stadium.
It's the tennis stadium. Like, I think that's going to happen, and I'm kind of expecting that to happen. So a bit of extra reins on that first run or two will happen. In terms of the like fanboying thing, I've competed. I competed with Justin when we were teenagers. Actually, I've met him, and the other guys I've seen at the games when I went and watched in Madison or in Carson, and at Granite Games in the athlete area, all that stuff. So I think I've been in the sport long enough. Not a huge like, oh my God, it's that person. It's really cool. It's like, wow, it's more of a, this is cool. I get to be out here with them and like do this next to them and experience that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, not knowing you very well, but it sounds like you are a fan of the sport. Oh, and you were even before you were an athlete.
Yeah, I love the sport. I mean, I've watched every games. I went back and watched them on YouTube for the old ones before I saw it, the first time live and all that stuff. And it is the only sport I really keep track of. I'm not big into football or basketball or any of that stuff. So this is kind of my, like, I mean, it is my Super Bowl for sure, right? Like the CrossFit Games in August are like, I'm not productive for this week. Like nothing's happening. Like I am exclusively like watching this all day, every day for 5 days. I'll pretend I'm doing stuff at work if I need to be, but I'm a little preoccupied.
What do you do to support yourself?
So I work at I coach at a CrossFit gym. I coach at CrossFit Drive, and then I also am salesperson at a furniture store here in Alberta.
Okay.
And then I just graduated from a nursing program, and I'm starting work at Mayo Clinic.
So you have lots of free time on your hands, apparently.
Yeah, tons of free time, just piling up.
So are you an HWPO athlete?
I am, yeah. So I started following them in summer of 22. Which if you look at my open finishes, there's a gap year there. I took 2022 off. I have a bit of a back injury that's nagged for years and years now, and that year was kind of just like, I just need a break, and so took the break and kind of took a few steps back and just relaxed a little. And summer of 22, I started doing their HWPO Strong, that Rob Kearney program. So it was just lifting 4 days a week. Did that for the fall of that year, and then new year of 23, going into the 2023 season, started following the 60 track because, like you said, I've got tons of free time. So about 60 minutes a day is my limit. 60 to 75 minutes a day of like, all right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to get it done, and then move on for the day. So I followed that and did that in 2023 season, have done that since. And this year I didn't change anything until after the Open, when it went surprisingly well. And then jumped on their Open prep stuff, got ready for quarters, and then made it through quarters and jumped on their semifinal stuff these last several weeks, and did that this morning after coaching class, heading into next week.
The reason I ask that is because, they're known for like their compete track is like a very long, like if you can get it done in 2 hours, you're doing well.
Oh, yeah. Their 60 track is the same. I will say, when I first started it, I tried to do it in 60 minutes. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get it done in an hour. And it was a full out 60-minute Metcon. It was just go. Like, you couldn't, it was just, you're going. And I finally was like, all right, I can take 75 minutes to get this done today. I can relax a little bit. And it is, it is definitely a full load in terms of what they're giving to do, and it should be like, if you do push and really focus on getting it done, maybe dial the percentages back a little bit, you can absolutely do it in an hour for the 60, is what I'm used to. Excuse me. And in terms of the pro stuff, which I've just started doing the last few weeks, they have it split out into session 1 and session 2. I kind of pick and choose what is the priority for me as an athlete for what I have time for that day. Generally, I'm going to make sure I get the strength stuff done and any like just high power interval stuff. And then if I happen to have time later at night, I can go do some cardio or whatever it may be.
So before I ask you my next question, Wild Zombie says you have a cool semifinal shirt. So I'm actually going to pull it up.
Oh, yeah.
Got it here.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like you have it regular and maybe cropped.
Yeah, there's a couple. So the black one is a regular and a crop, and then there's a blue tee and a red crop as well. Yeah, those ones.
Any significance to the logo?
The V, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the logo for CrossFit Drive, the affiliate I train and coach at.
And in the back, you have what kind of looks like a surfboard, maybe something different.
No, it is a bit of a surfboard. I really enjoy paddleboarding.
Okay.
And water and everything. I have a paddleboard tattoo on my leg, actually. I came up, so my affiliate owner, Casey, she made the other two, the red and the green and the blue one. And then I kind of came up with that one for that design. I just like how it looks. I like the bright colors on it. It seemed very like West Coast to me in terms of where I'm going for semis.
So Wad Zombie has another question. Is it meant to be V's or is it supposed to look like a tire?
It is. It's a V thing, but I get the tire reference. Actually, I've actually never thought of that. I like that.
So, yeah, he was saying tire treads. Yeah, it does kind of look like a tire tread.
It does. He's spot on.
So now that you're going into nursing, what will that do to your schedule? And will you be able to continue to compete beyond this year?
Well, I work. I'm gonna end up working.
Oh no. And we lost him. Here we go. There he's back.
Oh, there we go. I will be working 12-hour overnights. I know that because I actually today's Wednesday, so tomorrow night is my first overnight shift actually. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Don't you compete like in a week?
Yeah, I got one tomorrow, and then I think I have one on Monday night. I think I have one next Monday night. But I mean that's life,
what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, that is exactly what it is. I wasn't planning on competing, like at least to this extent this year. It was completely a shock, like truly in every way. Like I finished the open and was where I was, and I was like, oh, okay, that's surprising. And so I was like, I guess I'll try to turn it up a little for quarters, and then the exact same placement happened in quarters, and I was like, okay, and I didn't get, penalized booted, which was nice. And it is a bit of like, I'm gonna do it this year for sure because it happened to happen and it lines up okay. Like I'm not fully into my schedule of overnights constantly, or I go right back into school July 1st for another nursing program. But next year, the years after, I think will just be what I did this year. Like I'll do HWPO 60 or something along those lines and train when I can, probably 5-6 days a week, and see what happens.
I heard Ariel Lowen say this a couple of years ago, and it turned into way more than that. So just be careful.
Well, here's the weird thing. I did, because I think if you look, you see this happen to all the athletes that like retire, is they stop training to compete. Like they stop training 3 to 5 hours a day, and they're training, 1 to 2, and all of a sudden they're still doing as good as ever. And I think there's something to that. Now, I think going to semis, you would notice the difference because those people that train 3 to 5 hours are like, this is nothing. They're prepared for that. Whereas those ones that have, taken a step back aren't quite ready to go full in for a whole weekend. I think they feel it a little bit more. But training for an hour a day or so, I think just allows you to have that intensity there and to focus on the things that really move the needle more than anything, to apparently put you in a pretty decent level of fitness.
So here's a great question. How well would he have to do to put his career on hold to compete?
I don't know if I could even do that. Going into nursing was something that was kind of like it's about time kind of a thing. And I'm really looking forward to, like, I'm really excited about. I've done a lot of things. Like I've delivered pizza. I work at a furniture store now. I've coached for a long time, coached since I was 17. And coaching has always been the thing that stuck around because it's helping people. Like it's that ability to help people stay healthy with their life and the lifestyle they want to lead and all that. And I haven't been able to be in a spot where coaching is my full-time thing, which it is what it is. It's hard to do that in general in, you know, this space. Very tough. And it's had this thing just over a year ago, if even, where I decided like I need to go do this for nursing. It's been great. Like I'm really excited about it. I'm really happy with like where it's going.
Well, and to be honest, as a fan of the sport, if your last competition was on the tennis stadium floor,
oh yeah,
what a way to go out.
Yeah, I'll be like, all right, I think I hit it. I think I checked all the boxes. I think I'm good. I mean,
especially if you get to do that berm run.
Oh man, would be iconic. Don't get me wrong. If next year I land in the same spot, I'm gonna keep going. Like I'm not gonna decline an invite anywhere. That will never happen. I love competing. It's a blast. I have just a great time with it. But it'd be hard for me to be like, all right, I'm gonna not do this so I can focus just on competing. Not to mention like the resources necessary to make that happen are very far out of reach, I think, from my perspective at least. And I don't know are totally necessary. Like I got to this point doing 60 to 75 minutes a day. If I, take all those steps back, I gain an extra couple hours a day probably of training, really.
So I'm gonna finish up with this one question.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Carson and you have the weekend of your life, and it may or may not come with a games invite, who knows? But regardless, you go and you have a blast in Carson and it's just epic. What goes on that green egg when you get home?
Oh, pork shoulder. Absolutely. It's so consistent. It's so melt in your mouth. It's got to be a pork shoulder or pork butt.
And how big's the party?
Oh, we'll get a good chunk of people here. We'll have the gym here. We'll have family here. We'll have family friends here. It'll be a blast of a weekend to follow.
Well, that's a great answer. Tristan, it's been a blast, man, getting to know you. We'll be rooting for you in Carson. We're going to be reaching out to athletes all weekend. As I'm not able to get there flight wise, but we're going to run recap shows every night through the weekend, and stay by your DMs. We'll try to get you on, man.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Anytime, man.
Thanks a bunch. And everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. You made it a blast as always. We'll see everybody next time on the Clydesdale Media Podcast, where we're featuring the athletes of the 2024 CrossFit Games. Bye, guys.